Hey, hockey fans, TBOS is 13-3 here with top shelf guests, former Golden Gopher, NHLer, and founder of Breakaway Academy, Dave Snuggerud, and current Golden Gopher, St. Louis Blues draft choice, and Dave's son, Jimmy Snuggerud. This episode is sponsored by State Farm Insurance, Hertel Law, Raleigh's Coach Club, Riverside Bike and Skate, and Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, which has been committed to the healthcare needs of patients in western Wisconsin since 1954. The surgeons and athletic trainers serve many area schools, and their success and reputation as an outstanding orthopedic clinic can be attributed to the fantastic and knowledgeable staff. Mogi.
Hey, Jimmy and Dave, I apologize. I had a little communication snafu with the boys today, but they are here. They are hopefully going to be very gracious with their time, and we're looking so forward to being here with you at Breakaway Academy, and look forward to hearing your story, guys.
Well, thanks for having us on, Mogi and JC. This is pretty exciting for us to be part of your podcast and your show. I heard great things about it, so looking forward to having a good conversation here.
Cool.
Well, Jimmy, we know how you got involved in hockey. I mean, it was a given. But Dave, let's talk about you. How, born and raised in the hotbed of hockey, state of hockey, who introduced you to the game?
Well, the youngest of 5 kids, and my oldest sister was a figure skater. And my parents were not hockey people or figure skating people, but taking her to the rink every morning at 5 a.m., I think that got us all going into the sport of skating, actually, just with skating. But she was the one that's kind of led us into this great sport. Eventually, the skating, going on the outdoor rinks, evolved to hockey playing. My dad took part of a lot of coaching then, went to the coaching clinics and found interested in that. And my mother was behind the scenes there as a tryout evaluator with hockey. So it just ended up evolving as a hockey family in the western suburbs.
Very cool. So, Jimmy, how about your first introduction to the game?
Yeah, I think I was 2 years old when he first put me on skates. I think he was kind of hoping I was going in skates no matter what age. But no, just he didn't care. But I think just kind of the fact that I got out so early just kind of helped my passion for the game start. I think just kind of being able to put on the skates in my backyard rink is something that kind of brought my passion and love for the game, and especially my brother playing and my older sister too. And I just kind of think just having that passion from a young age has helped me a lot my whole career.
Did you take to it right away?
Yeah, he would know better because I don't remember much, but I think just kind of growing up with it is really special, and it's pretty huge.
He kind of probably thought the rink was for him and his brother and his sister, but it was actually my peaceful time to go in the backyard and flood a rink. There's nothing better than that moment when it's 10 o'clock at night standing out there watching it freeze. There was ice, but that was really my therapy, and these guys ended up using it and ripping it up during the day.
So you might be interested. We have a podcast out there in our archive. It's called The Outdoor Rink Guys. So we got a bunch of guys together, a bunch of dads, our contemporaries who had built outdoor rinks, and they talked about the pluses and minuses and some of the little episodes they had trying to build it, things that went great, things that did not go very well. It was pretty funny.
What were some of the lessons you learned?
Yeah, well, one of the things I learned is water levels itself.
Yeah, we heard that one.
If you have a corner that's 2 feet below the other corner, well, you're going to need 4 feet of water to fill the whole dang thing up. So eventually levels. But it's more of the art of trying to build the boards and trying to. It's a really good story. I have an older boy, Jake Snuggerud, who's equipment manager at Augustana. With the Division I team starting there next year. But he would love to paint the rink and the logos and decorate the locker room in the bedroom. And so he'd spend his time doing all those things, and Jimmy's like, let's go out and skate. Come on, Jake, let's go out and skate. But Jake would end up taking the time to do all those other things, and of course he ends up being equipment manager in his future. So It was perfect.
Yeah, he was destined. Jimmy, were there a few elbows thrown with your brother out on the rink?
I know I got a puck to the jaw one time, and I went to the hospital. I was probably a little bigger baby than I thought I was, but definitely, even knee hockey in the summer would definitely be some elbows thrown, and I'd always be the crybaby, but just a younger one. But yeah, he helped me a lot just to become tougher.
you didn't get stuck in the nets as a young lad, to start out to be on the rink with the big boys, did you?
No, nothing like that.
Okay.
That does happen a lot, though.
It does. Well, you guys took different paths when high school hit. You continued on, Dave, with your high school career. Jimmy, you moved on to the National Team Developmental Program. Were there opportunities for you, Dave, back in high school to go on during your high school years?
Well, compared to today's game, no, there wasn't a lot of options. It was typically the path was high school, then directly to college, or else they had a league, the USHL, which is currently a great success story in itself. I played with Minneapolis Junior Stars, and at the time there was, I think, 8 teams in the league with Des Moines, Waterloo, and St. Paul Vulcans were involved in that league too at the same time. So I had an opportunity to play for the Bloomington Junior Stars under coach by the name of Dean Talifas, who, it's great.
Been on our podcast.
Azzy Dean's the best. And you look about people taking credit along the way. I had a great trainer in Jack Blatherwick, but Dean Talifas was my inspiration as a coach and teaching me the game of hockey and how to play the game the right way in both ends of the rink, and he was fantastic.
Did he try to get you to go to Wisconsin?
He did not.
Oh.
But as we go through this podcast, I wanted Jim to go to Wisconsin.
Oh, this is going to be good. All right, Jimmy. When did the National Team Developmental Program start looking at you and come calling?
Yeah, I think it was probably my my second year of Bantams is when they kind of started like hitting up my line and things like that. It was Rod Bracewell at the time. He was the scout for NTDP. He's with Chicago now, but I think just he would come to my Bantam games and we'd talk after. And at that point on, I just kind of thought it could be an option for me. And, it was a tough decision along the whole way, but, just being at the program for 2 years and being coached by a great coach of Adam Nightingale and having good strength coaches off the ice was like really, really huge for my development. And, that's why it's called a development program, because you go on a kid and basically become on a man. I think I went in there like 160 pounds or something, and I came out like 185. It's just like, it's such a huge difference from, what other guys are doing in high school. I'm not saying it's a bad route, but I just basically you become so much of a more mature person too, just living away from home.
Some of those guys that have come out of that program, including yourself, I mean, it's just a list of All-Americans. I mean, just incredible. How do they really how do they find you? How do they find the other guys, and how do they convince you to go? Because as a young man, you're 14, 15, maybe 16 years old. It's kind of like the Canadian juniors, right? Bye, mom and dad. We're gone. And, how'd that work out for you? Did you get homesick or?
Yeah, starting off with how they find these guys, I really don't understand it. I know Brent Darnell, he's a scout there pretty well, and I remember when I was an 18-year there, and they had the camp for the younger guys coming in, and there was some random like high school kid out of like New Hampshire or something. In New Hampshire, high school hockey isn't the best, and he was just some random kid who came out there and skated, and he was one of the best players on the ice. And I don't understand how he found them and things like that, but kind of just being away from home, like you said, I was fortunate enough to roam with Ryan Chesley and Charlie Stramel, 2 other Minnesota kids at NTDP, and all of our parents would come out and switch off. So it wasn't really easy to get homesick because I was either with my parents or with parents from Minnesota. So it became, it was really easy for us, but just kind of living away with those guys, it was honestly really fun. And the time I spent there and the memories that we built was pretty cool.
Dave, you mentioned the juniors, the USHL, and you played for the Bloomington Junior Stars. 48 games, 38 goals, 35 assists. Not bad. You were lighting it up pretty good.
That's the first time I've heard those stats probably in 30 years.
Well, how could that be? You're not that old, right?
Thank you. But I am. Wow. Okay, I'm looking at this here now. So once again, we're a bunch of graduates from high school coming together. Some really good players that get a chance to play at college, and so they decided to take this route. And playing with the guys that I did helped contribute to the goals and the assists that were produced. We were a young team, and we were only. I think Bloomington had dismissed the team, and then they had come back. later on, and so they're a brand new team again. But having the young guys that we did was really a tribute to Dean Talifas and putting our team together and making us play the way we did. And of course, he had a chance then to go on to the University of Minnesota with his great coaching abilities, which is a good story for Dean to be able to do that.
Yeah, Dean's a good guy. So, did you have any opportunities to play college right out of high school, or did people that you were talking to you direct you to the USHL, and then how did the Gophers come into play?
Yeah, it's not a success story. It's not a Cinderella story. I was a high school kid that was unmotivated to pursue hockey. I was unmotivated to do well in the classroom. To be honest, I just wanted to be a school teacher when I was a senior in high school, and so that's what my motivation was, is to be a teacher. And then Dean Talvis gave me a call and said, "Hey, you got to try this league. You can go to Normandale," because I wanted to continue my education. So I took a few classes at Normandale, and Dean just really directed me in the direction I had to go to. He brought out the inspiration to me to work hard at something. You don't know what the outcome's going to be. And, with him taking the lead, with me, really helped me produce, being the kind of player that I was, in the future after playing the Bloomington Junior Stars.
Was it in the USHL that the Gophers started to recognize you, or was it before that?
Yeah, it was really, I don't know how that works with the college recruiting, but Miami of Ohio, during halfway through the year, approached me about going to school there on a scholarship. And I was really intrigued by that because it's a teaching school. Miami of Ohio it's a great school to go to earn your degree in elementary education. So I instantly went down there, took the trip, and found out, man, this is the place I want to be. And then 2 days later, I think Doug Woog heard Brad Buteau at the time. Yeah, I heard that I had a scholarship down there. So they came knocking on the door, want to come here. So now I had to go through the process of making a decision. And I remember Glenn Sommore is a really good friend of our family. And I was talking to Glenn about this decision, and he looked at me across the table and says, "Are you crazy? You're from Minnesota. You grew up here. You've watched Minnesota hockey all your life. I'm making a decision for you. You're going to the University of Minnesota." So Glenn kind of got his way. I said, "Okay, Glenn, I have to listen to your what your thinks are and what your thoughts are." So I just ended up getting into the College of Education at the University of Minnesota and continued to pursue my degree in that. And then went to the University of Minnesota on Glenn Sommore's behalf.
There you go. So, Jimmy, you played in the USHL too, technically with the development program. So what influenced your decision to become a Gopher? Obviously, your dad is a Gopher, so I don't know if that was it. And when did they come looking at you, and did you have any chance to go anywhere else?
Yeah, I think it wasn't super early. I think just, first of all, the decision to go there it was no one's decision but mine. I think my dad really left it up to me. I think, speaking of my grandpa, though, he kind of wanted me to go to Minnesota. Jim Westby, because he wanted to watch, he wanted to be at the games. But my dad didn't necessarily want me to go to Minnesota. He said it was up to me. Just what it came down to, I think, is just being able to practice against the best every day, going up against Faber and Lacombe and Nyes. Like last year, it was pretty crazy how much I improved in practice, like from day to day, and just the campus of the area. And obviously being close to home was nice, but it wasn't a huge factor decision. But other than Minnesota, I think, like he said, Wisconsin was the first to reach out to me, actually, Tony Granato. And after Tony reached out to me, they were like the first team to do it. And he was like, "Well, why isn't Bob reaching out to you? Tony's the only one to give me a full ride scholarship, so why isn't Bob doing the same too?" And Bob's technique was just wait it out, because he knew that, eventually I might become a Gopher, and it was smart of him. But I just think because he just had that in the back of his head. But I had some other options too. I like Boston a lot, and North Dakota too. Out east was a really cool spot, and North Dakota has facilities too. I just think it's a little bit too cold there. But no, I'm just kidding. I think just kind of to become a Gopher, it felt right to me, and the players that they developed there is pretty cool. become to be really good pro hockey players too. Phil Kessel just won his 3rd cup last night. He didn't play a lot of the games, but he was there with the team. Obviously, a good teammate. But I think that's just really what it came down to.
So you mentioned your grandpa, Jim Westby, also a Gopher. So you're a 3rd-generation Gopher here. And also you played for the United States in the World Juniors this past winter. Congratulations on the bronze medal. Your dad was a 1988 Olympian, and your grandpa was a 1964 Olympian, for crying out loud. So you guys have that going for you. All Gophers, all playing for our country. So what does that mean when you pull on the sweater of the United States of America? I want to hear that from both you guys.
I think it really doesn't get old. It's kind of cliche, but putting it on for 2 years, it was really an honor, and to still have the availability to put it on is pretty cool to me. I think just knowing the past of USA Hockey is really cool, and knowing that my dad and grandpa both had the chance to do it makes it even cooler. Just knowing that they reached even higher points of playing the Olympics, where I haven't reached that yet. But I think that it's really cool to hear their stories from that and know that they had teammates in those tournaments. Obviously, it was different because they played the whole year together. So they built an even bigger bond with their teammates, whereas USA Hockey does a really good job of that. And I think just putting on that sweater when you get the chance really never gets old.
How about you, Dave?
Yeah, it is an honor, but it's just it's the reputation that USA Hockey has developed through their players. The players that have come through there, friends with Mike Ramsey. Of course, he was a 1980 Olympic winner. But the pride that my father-in-law has when he talks about USA Hockey and playing the '64 Olympics and talking about his experiences over there. So the pride from the jersey comes from the players that wore those jerseys for me. And that's why it's an honor, and it was an honor for me to try to give it the best effort I possibly could for these, for the alumni of USA Hockey and the management. The people that run USA Hockey are good people. They work really hard. They're diligent. One person in particular, Jimmy Johansson, who was a teammate of mine, but having his reputation and the kind of person he was makes that family of USA Hockey a special thing. And that's what makes it special to wear that jersey, is the people that have put it on in the past.
So let me talk a little bit about your grandpa again. Sorry, JC, if I cut you off, but he played in the 1955 Minnesota State High School Hockey Tournament, right? And they're playing against Thief River Falls, and they played 11 overtimes, and he wins the game 3-2. 11 overtime. Oh my gosh. Has he talked about that, or has he shared stories with you guys about back in the day?
Yeah, he's pretty humble about it, honestly. My mom tells me mostly everything about it and just what she has heard from him, but I mean, I've heard things like they were drinking Coke and between locker room having, a bunch of food. But like I said, I actually haven't heard a ton about it because he's so humble about it.
Yeah, and that's exactly the way Grandpa Jim is with his success with USA Hockey. But scoring that goal, we hear about it once every 5 years because somebody will do a story on it. And he has so much pride, and when he tells a story, such a big smile. But it was unbelievable, all the hockey that they played that night, and he was sitting in the locker room drinking Coke, wondering if this game would ever get over with. And they talk about it, they have to go the next day and play hockey and finish the game. But he is such a wonderful human being. He's still playing hockey today, so he's 87 years old.
Holy cow!
Him and his buddies, they go over to Bloomington Ice Garden and skate. With the old timers. And every once in a while, Jim and myself, or Jim's mom, Jim's daughter, Grandpa Jim's daughter, we'll go watch him. And it's so much fun. He takes so much pride when we go there to watch and skating around out there and playing some hockey. So the game never ends. It's a great thing that they got going. They skate for a couple hours over at Bloomington. They all bring some lunch in. They all have a couple beers. After the skate
Hockey
in the parking lot.
Hockey
Yeah.
pops. There you
And then
go.
they go home and take a nap for a couple hours.
That's awesome. Oh, Jimmy, let's back up a little bit to your youth. You had a former NHLer as your coach. Same guy that's sitting next to you. What was that like as a kid growing up? Did he ride your butt a little bit more than the other kids, or how'd that work? Come on.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that smile.
I I'd tell you more, but my dad's right next to me.
Yeah, it was pretty surreal. I mean, just being coached by him, by your dad. Not a lot of players get that opportunity, and it's weird just kind of skating with him at practice. I got him call him coach and not dad when I'm, referring to him, and then I'd go home and he'd tell me to do my homework. Like, it's even on the ride home, it's so different. Just kind of having that opportunity. It's pretty cool, and he's one of my favorite coaches of all time too. Just the way he coached. I just remember one of his stories. It must have been the show Great Plains. We were probably 12, 13 years old, and we were on the penalty kill, and he wouldn't let us ice the puck. He's just that type of coach, and you want to have that availability to score and play offense, and there's not a lot of coaches like that out there anymore.
I agree with that 100%. And why did you want him to go to Wisconsin? I mean, Granato was reaching out. I mean, NHLer, US Olympian himself, Hockey Hall of Fame. I mean, this big name coach is reaching out, and you want him to go play Wisconsin, and he snubbed you.
Yes, he did. He made that decision, and it looks like it's been a good decision.
Yeah, it kind of does, doesn't it?
And Jimmy is he's not a dumb kid. He's conscious about a lot of things that he sees in front of him, and he makes wise decisions always. He seems ahead of his time always when he has to do these things. But as we're talking about coaching, I'm a fan of coaches can really have an influence on players.
Oh, heck yeah.
Yes, and they can take a player at a certain level, and this is how I define a coach, and just bring them up to the next level. And some coaches can do that, whereas I know Tony Granato would be able to do that. I had a chance to play with him in the 88 Olympic team, and he's just a wonderful human being. And so I tried to introduce Jimmy to Wisconsin camp when he was an underage. I don't think he must have been 16 or 15. And the whole point of that was just so he could get the chance to meet Tony Granato. And so I was a big fan of Tony's and still am. I didn't know Bob Motzko as well. But as it turns out, Bob's been absolutely fantastic. And so he's been a great coach to Jim. So that decision Jimmy made has been great. But high kudos to Tony Granato and what he tried to do over at Wisconsin.
Nice.
Very good. We're going to give a quick shout out to a couple of our sponsors. Riverside Bike and Skate, Eau Claire's hockey headquarters, which is the oldest hockey store in the state of Wisconsin. Buy hockey gear from the people that play and know the game. Riverside Bike and Skate. And Hertel Law, the law firm you want on your side, focusing on criminal defense and personal injury. Harry Hertel has been obtaining results for clients in the Chippewa Valley since 1981.
So you guys both have reached a very high level of hockey. Jimmy, we're assuming that yours is going to continue to rise. And with Dave, playing at Minnesota and then also in the NHL. So what are some of the similarities and differences between your games?
I suppose Jim never had a chance to watch me play, which is probably a good thing because he probably been rolling his eyes quite a bit.
Well, do you ever get out on the ice in the outdoor rink and scrap a little bit with them?
No. These guys are so good now. I don't want to show them how bad I really was. But the one thing that stands out is Jim, growing up, always would watch hockey. He would sit in front of the TV and watch the Gophers play. He would sit in front of the TV and watch the Minnesota Wild play. So he would enjoy watching the game. And the way Jimmy sees that game on TV, that transpires on the rink. One of the greatest things Jimmy does out there, he can see the plays. He can see the ice, and he can make the plays with the puck. When you're watching the game at I call it a map view down, it's like, oh, he should make that pass back to that defenseman there. And sure enough, he makes that pass back to the defenseman. So he sees the game the way we see it in the stands. And that's one of the things that's very impressive. Yeah, with Jim and how he plays the game. And then another is I always see a lot of second effort out of Jim. He'll puck pursue, but it's not a swing by. It's my job is to get that puck on my stick however I can. So he really pursues pucks very well. And of course, I can't compare our shot because Jim's shot is so much better than mine ever was. And that's a league in its own, which he's pursuing the way he shoots that pucks. But he does a lot. He's just really fun for me to go watch the games and watch the way he plays and watch how he interacts with his teammates. That was always very important to me. Is how you are interacting with your teammates, encouraging, positive. And from the stories I hear from his fellow teammates, from his coaches, that he's all of that. He's a great team guy, which for me is really important.
It's a great thing for a dad.
That's how you get success.
So you talk about a couple different generations of hockey. Do you see the training methods and work on individual skills being just unbelievable compared to maybe what it was in your day?
Yeah, I have a 1960 Toronto Maple Leafs letter for their training camp, and they wrote to their players coming in, make sure you can do 10 push-ups, make sure you can do 15 squats, and make sure you bring your golf clubs. That was a training camp
like
letter.
Tough training camp.
I don't think St. Louis Blues are going to be sending that to Jim.
I think you're right.
But the training is a lot different. These guys are more focused, but it's still the basics of in order to get to that next level, it's about speed of the game. You gotta keep up with the speed or get better. And then we have a trainer that trained with me, named was Jack Blatherwick, who taught me how to become faster. He trained with the whole '88 Olympic team. And after high school, he was my trainer, and it was just all about speed work. And so instantly when Jimmy was trying to get to the next level, he's trying to make that jump from high school to the NTDP. I introduced him to Jack Blatherwick, and Jack has done a great job training Jimmy with the speed work and becoming a faster hockey player.
Nice.
Jimmy, I got a couple of questions for you. The first one is, your dad talked about you being a visionary on the ice, and actually before you guys showed up, we talked to one of your teachers who said that exact same thing, that you had a vision, not only in academics, but also in your life. Do you think that what the classroom taught you is what brought to the ice, or do you think the ice brought it to the classroom?
I mean, it could go either way, honestly. Learning from hockey history of Mr. Brink to watching those clips and doing them on the ice to, using the vision and things on the ice and trying to use those smarts in the classroom. I think just that all kind of ties into how Breakaway Academy works, is you get to skate and you get to be in the classroom during the day, and that's what basically brought a huge vision to my game. And I think that helped me so much in my process, and where I've become today is how I could go onto the ice 30 minutes after I was in the classroom learning about the history of the United States and things like that. And I think it's so cool how they do that here, and the things that they do to keep the kids disciplined too is also very huge. Whereas, you can't have your phone during the day, or things like you can't skate if you don't do well in the classroom. And I always wanted to be on the ice, so I would make sure to be the best I could at academics every day.
Smart guy.
Exactly, smart guy. If there's there will be younger generation kids listening to this podcast, what words of encouragement do you have for them to say, you know what, I played at the NTT in the National Developmental Program. I got a D1 scholarship.
Got
drafted. I'm looking at a pro career. How did you stay focused? You weren't playing with your two thumbs in a corner with your phone or a video game. What do you have for advice for those young kids that want to get where you are?
Yeah, I think it's just don't overdo it. I've been asked by a lot of young kids right now is, should I play hockey during the summer and the winter and the fall and the spring? And growing up for me, I loved baseball just as much as I loved hockey. And during the summer, I would be with my Chaska buddies all summer long, just playing ball, being a kid, and doing what I love. And then eventually, once it came to hockey, I would train in the summer hockey and still hang out with them and golf and things like that. And obviously, it comes to a point where you have to be a hockey player, and you have to set times for that. And you have to train in the mornings. But once you're done with that, you can enjoy your time with them. So just having the mindset of kind of be where your feet are it's pretty cliche, but when I'm on the rink, I'm focused on becoming a better hockey player. When I'm in the weight room, I'm focused on becoming stronger. And when I'm on the golf course, I'm on the golf course. And I think it's just kind of being in that set of mind is pretty huge. And, there's obviously set of things aside, like take time out of your day to, become a better shooter, take time out of your day to, become a better stick handler. And I think I did that in the garage growing up a lot too. But it's just kind of be where your feet are, I think, is where it's mostly at.
Great advice.
Yeah. And
listen up, kids.
We haven't talked about this yet. Jimmy, what position do you play, and how did you end up in that position?
Yeah, I play right wing right now. I played center a lot growing up. Obviously, actually I started at defense until my dad decided I wasn't a very good backward skater.
Would that be Coach Snuggerud at the time?
Well, yeah, it was my brother who was actually coaching back at defense.
Yeah,
So it's your brother, your uncle's fault.
Yeah, no, there'd be a scrum at the red line, and I was playing left defenseman, and I would always want to jump in and get the puck and go skate and try and score. And his name's Uncle Bill. He'd always scream at me in practice, like as a squirt, just stay back, Jimmy. What are you doing? Don't get up in the play that much. But no, I think just playing center and right wing really helped my speed a lot too.
Well, did you tell him that Bobby Orr used to take the puck and sprint up the ice?
Yeah, it worked out for him a couple times, didn't it?
And Dave, how about you? What position did you play, and how'd you end up there?
Yeah, I was forward. I played center all the way through. As I developed, I stayed at the forward position. And evolving, Dean Talbot taught me how to play on our own end. So I'm more focused as a centerman because I could play really good defensively in our own end. And that evolved to playing in the NHL at that level, more of a defensive forward. So center was a great position for me.
So let's talk about the NHL. You get drafted in '87 by the Buffalo Sabres. Tell us about that experience.
Yeah, it's funny. The draft names are coming out right now for the end of June here for the NHL draft, and you kind of follow that along and see these kids. But as Jimmy told me last night, Marchand
Yeah.
did not even get drafted.
No.
Didn't get drafted.
First time ever Conn Smythe winner went undrafted.
Yeah, and that's a fantastic story. And there's a lot of stories like that. So I went through without getting drafted too. I played with the Minnesota college and the Olympic team and didn't get drafted. So they ended up signing these free agents out of college, and it was a pretty penny to pay for these guys. I think Brett Hall was one of them, the NHL figured out, hey, we can't be spending this kind of money on these free agents. So they created the supplemental draft, it was called. And so it was for players that didn't get drafted during the 3 years that they could get drafted, put in the supplemental draft, and I got picked in the supplemental draft. I wasn't disappointed or anything like that because he had no control over it. And so Buffalo Sabres took me the first pick of this supplemental draft, and the timing worked out great. I mean, the story ended up evolving where I had a chance to play with Buffalo right away. But there was no first round drama, success being drafted. It was just a situation where I got picked up in the supplemental draft.
Was it a dream for you to play in the NHL? I know you wanted to be a teacher, and you've done that. But did you want to be an NHLer? Or?
That's a great question, and I wish I could answer that was my dream. But my dream was to be a school teacher. I thought about that, and I tell a story that hockey kept on getting in the way. So me wanting to become a school teacher. But one thing I did know and I did develop at a younger age, thanks to my parents, was work ethic. It was like if you work hard, if you're honest, you work hard every day, you don't know what the outcome's going to be. So as I was working towards my degree, the hockey kept on evolving because I would try hard in hockey. I just love what Jimmy talked about with being in the present. He shared a story and advice to these kids about being in the present. And that's one thing that I learned. Like right now we're doing a podcast. I'm in the present. I'm so happy to be with you, JC and Mogi, that this is great. You enjoy these times in the present. When you're at a meal, you want to make sure you're eating the right things as best you possibly can. You're living in the present. As Jimmy said, you're in the weight room. You give it the best when you are at that time in the present. So for me, it was always learning to work hard in the present whenever I was doing. So when I was at the University of Minnesota, I was working hard to get my degree. I was in the present. And then I get to the rink and I work that same type of efforts by working hard. And the hockey just kept on evolving. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm getting better. I'm getting faster. I'm getting scoring goals. And so that kind of evolved. And then making the Olympic team came through my daily habits of working in practice. Dave Peterson picked up on that. So that's how that all evolved. The hockey eventually ran out, but the school was there, so I could fall back on. But it's what Jimmy says. You just got to live in the present, work hard.
A little bit different story for you in the draft, Jimmy. Getting picked number 23 overall by the St. Louis Blues. How's that? Tell us about that.
Yeah, just kind of living in the moment there was pretty cool. Just being at the draft, seeing all the, some of my best buddies get picked and seeing the top guys get picked. It was pretty cool. Just kind of watch everyone go through the whole year, including myself, just kind of see how much, guys improve throughout the whole year and eventually be picked, in the first round. It was pretty crazy. Just kind of being there and hearing your name called. I honestly blacked out. I don't really remember walking up to the stage and shaking Gary Bettman's hand. It was pretty crazy, but just kind of being there and in hearing that name be called and have my family sitting by me, it's pretty cool. And, to be picked by such a great GM is pretty awesome too. And just the organization there it's a really strong foundational organization.
So we were talking to Jamie McBain, and he was with the Minnesota 88, so all those guys that were just incredible, so many first-round picks. And he talked about how they would sit around and talk about what order they thought they were going to get picked. I mean, here they are, kids, right? Yeah. Oh, I don't know. I think I'll probably go number 1. Did you guys ever do that? Did you sit down and speculate? No. Hey, are we going to get picked and when and with who?
A little bit, kind of, just not much.
How could you not, right?
Yeah, it's fun to talk. It was fun to talk about the draft, throughout the whole year, but just kind of to see those guys get picked was really cool, but I wouldn't say we ever really did that much.
Okay. Hey, we're going to give a shout out to a couple more sponsors. Raleigh's Coach Club in Altoona, Wisconsin, located across from the Altoona Ice Center on Spooner Avenue, has been a staple in the Altoona community for decades, providing support and sponsorship for youth and adult sports. Raleigh's has your favorite beverage ready and your favorite team on the screen. And State Farm Insurance for all your family insurance needs. See one of the well-qualified Flag brothers at State Farm Insurance. Jeff and Chippewa Falls, Ryan and Eau Claire, Quinn or Rolf, located in Duluth, Minnesota, who are all hockey fanatics. And thanks to you guys for sponsoring us.
Jimmy, before the draft, did you go to the Combine?
Yeah, I did.
And give us an idea. What are some of the things they run you through at the Combine? Do you got to ride the bike till you puke?
Almost.
Almost.
The first 4 days are all interviews and things like that. And there's a lot of silly questions throughout the whole process, and just being asked like things I've never been asked before. I think the weirdest one was probably if I was an animal on the rink, what animal do I think I would be? And off the rink too, I think I said lion, and I think most of the guys said lion just because it's hard to think in the moment, like, what animal am I supposed to be on a hockey rink? I don't know. But then then you go throughout the training and you do a VO2 max bike, which is once you get off the bike, you feel like you can't even walk. You just fall down. It's so weird. And then the next day is all the pull-ups and things like that. And the 30-second sprint is pretty tough. They have a huge black curtain room after you get off the bike for, puking. And there's a bunch of garbage cans in there. And I was sitting in there for like 7 minutes just trying to catch my breath again. But, they do a good job there of getting all the teams together and just kind of being in the atmosphere with all the other draft picks was really cool.
A future Hall of Famer by the name of Sidney Crosby, when he went to the Combine, didn't do a single pull-up. He said when he sees a puck do a pull-up, he'll do one. Yeah. So, and of course, we see where he is now. Yeah. Were you able to get pull-ups in?
Yeah, I think I got some. Not as good as Sidney Crosby, though, so I was a little bit
All right. And when you were at the Combine, you meet with various teams. Did you have an idea ahead of time who was going to pick you, or did that team change?
I think it's not a huge idea. With the Blues, it's kind of weird. You don't really ask a lot of questions, but they were one of the only teams where I kind of asked a question back because I was curious. Just like, I think I asked about some of their leadership roles on the team, but I didn't really have a huge idea. I just kind of thought there might be a chance I get taken in the first round. Obviously it was likely to happen, but it's really cool how they do it there.
So Dave, talk to us about a couple of your teammates with the Sabres. You played with Alexander Mogilny and you played with Phil Housley. Should Mogilny be in the Hall of Fame? Housley's in the Hall of Fame. Fellow Minnesotan. What do you think about those two guys?
Well, Alex is an interesting story because my rookie year is the year he defected from Russia. And literally it was after, I think, the World Juniors, they got on a plane and flew to Buffalo. And he didn't speak any English, and he couldn't see his family. And we became really good friends because we were both rookies at the time. And so there was a lot of tears on his part because he couldn't go home anymore. He couldn't see his family, and there was no way they do any communication, which was difficult. But when Alex, then those emotions all went away when he got on the rink, because when he got on the rink, that was his habitat. That was his natural place to shine. And he was such a dynamic hockey player. Alexander Mogilny, Hall of Famer for sure. And then of course, Phil Housley, what he did was really incredible. Is after he came right from South St. Paul High School and jumped right in the NHL. And I don't know, I think he had like 15 goals right away is that first year. And he was so highly skilled that for a high school kid to do that, it just seems incredible, even today's game, for them to be able to do that. But Phil was another dynamic player. I had a lot of fun just going to our practices because Dale Howachuk was on the team there, and Dale was just a gifted athlete that was so great with the puck. So I would spend most of my practice time in awe just watching these guys. How great they were. That was kind of fun.
Hey, Dave, you got to do the drill. Oh, I'm sorry.
And I was smart enough to know I'm just going to pass them the puck and let them do what they got to
do. Any stories, in the locker room, bus rides, plane rides you can share with us at all?
Well, there's plenty of stories. Nothing that comes to mind in particular, except that Dave Anderchuk, who's in the Hall of Fame, who had a chance to visit. I was in his wedding back when he was engaged and got married with the Sabres. But Dave Anderchuk was the kind of guy we would golf, and he was the best golfer. He was the kind of guy, when we played basketball, he'd always win in pig. When we played ping pong, he always won in ping pong. And here's this guy that's 6'4", 6'5", 220 pounds, and he had the most gifted hands. He could just, whatever he did with his hands, he was very good and athletic at it. But he was also a very fun guy and a very social guy, and that's why he wore the C with the Sabres and with Tampa Bay, just because he was such a great team guy. But being in that culture, and Jim probably has the same stories, and we talked about this earlier, Mogi, about the hockey culture and all your great podcasts you guys have done, and how willing these people are to speak hockey and talk hockey. You guys are unbelievable. Your homework that you've done here, JC, it's very impressive with the questions, but being part of this hockey culture is special. And so when I think of stories in the past, there's hundreds of stories, but they're very similar about how great the people are in the hockey world.
Yeah.
So it makes it really fun. So you guys are doing a fantastic job. Thanks, guys.
Well, appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you.
Can you give us any insight into a current coach that you played under, Torts? What was it like? I mean, that guy looks like, isn't he the one? Is he the one that took away the iPads now off the bench?
Yes, he is. Yes,
yeah.
he is.
So what was it like playing under that guy?
Yeah, John Tortorella, who's a coach of Philadelphia Flyers right now, He's an old school coach. He was assistant coach at Buffalo Sabres. The head coach at the time was Rick Dudley, who was just as crazy as John. So I had two crazy coaches that did it the old school way. And even during NHL games, he came in and he tipped the Gatorade bottle over a couple times after a few periods that we were playing so bad. John Tortorella would be in your face, and they both worked really well together. But it was motivating.
So it was like bad cop, bad cop.
Yeah, you're right. I was waiting for the good cop. I'm a little college kid with some sympathy around here. Never got that. But they're winners. Rick Dudley, John Tortorella, they're winners. And their approach, you have to understand I always think it's so funny now when some of the kids, youth players say, well, this coach is really mean, or this coach is really nice, or this coach doesn't know what they're talking about, or this coach is all we do is skate. Well, as an athlete, you have to get used to different coaches' styles because you don't know what's going to happen. And so if you accept that coaching style, and that's one thing Jim and I always talked about, whoever your coach is, you have to listen and you have to give it the best effort because they're trying to get somewhere too. And they don't know how to get there, where they're trying to coach at a higher level, or if they're trying to find different ways to motivate an athlete. So I look at John Tortorella as he was a very hard-nosed coach, but so was my dad when I was growing up, and it worked out just fine that I got used to that style. And it was great. Rick Dudley was very hard-nosed. Dean Talifas was very technical, very smart, but very hard-nosed. And these kind of guys are coaches that are willing to take the time to make me a better athlete or their players a better athlete. And I love that philosophy. Why are you looking at an iPad? It doesn't make any sense. You miss the net. You can't watch the play anything different. It's not going to hit the net when you turn on these iPads. But the old school coaching, it still works. But today's coaches a lot of them are psychologists now. They can work with these kids and figure that out.
They got her dialed in.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
So with you guys both being Gophers, but you play in different conferences. Okay, so you played in the old WCHA. Jimmy, now you play in the Big Ten. So the Big Ten hasn't been together as long, or it's not as established as the WCHA. But I got to believe you guys are starting to build some rivalries with some guys. So can you tell us about some of the rivalries you see as either they're already there or they're up and coming? And then, Dave, if you can share some of your stories about some of the epic battles you had with some of your rivals during your time as a Gopher.
Yeah, Wisconsin's always kind of been there. Just kind of playing them, at home or even in their barn. They sold out at I don't remember the name of their rink, but we sold out, or Cole Center. We sold out at Mariucci, and just kind of have that as it's so cool to know the past of that. And we've even started building one with, I think Ohio State is kind of in the making here, and just the passion in those games and the physicality in those games is building more and more. And, there is some other rivalries, smaller things like, Notre Dame or Penn State was sold out at their barn too. And I think they're all pretty huge games, but I think Wisconsin's got to be number one in that category.
So does everybody gear up for Minnesota? Especially last year, you guys are number one all year long.
Yeah. I think the target on the back of being number one is something that's good, but it also can be bad because you can't get cocky with it. And knowing that each team is going to come in and, they want that spot, they want to have that number one with their team, it's good because we get every team's best. And just to have that and know that each team is going to be giving 100% every time they come in and they're going to do their best to beat us. It's obviously it's a huge target on our back, but we like it.
Yeah, that Big Ten is evolving as a great league with the competitions and the travel's great for these guys so they can get in and out. Whereas when we were playing WCHA, we had to go up to Michigan Tech and Houghton, and it was
can't get
freezing.
there from here.
I remember one time I noticed it started to snow. We had a Friday, Saturday, and it started to snow Friday night late, and then all of a sudden it snows in the morning Saturday, and it kept on snowing. It's like, how much snow can this town get? And sure enough, after the game Saturday night, they canceled our flight because there was so much snow on the ground in Houghton, Michigan. And we were doing those little puddle jumpers back at the time. Those little planes. I was like, oh my gosh, this is not going to be fun.
Just hope that your gear makes it along with you, right?
Yeah. And it was also great. They had it was fun. We always stayed Saturday night, where these guys are getting on a plane and coming home, but we'd stay Saturday night. And I remember at Tech, they had the snow sculptures.
Winter Carnival.
The Winter Carnival. It was so fun. It was, you go out and I think we had an early game on Saturday at 2:00, and then we went out and hung out the snow carnival, had some fun there. And we do that too with other teams like North Dakota. You end up going out with the guys afterwards from the other teams because you kind of know them a little bit from high school or playing in juniors. But our hardest competition was always North Dakota. It was the great rivalry, where you go to the game at 4:00 and they're already lined up. All the students were lined up outside, standing in the freezing cold, ready to get out there. And they all had their dead frozen Gophers in their hands, and they'd wave in front of you as you walk in the building. But that league was very fun, and during that time, North Dakota ended up winning with Tony Herkus and Eddie Belfer, the goaltender. They were really good hockey players. But the league was very fun, just because of we knew Fridays. It was always Friday, Saturday, 7:00. There wasn't worry about TV times, and that tradition just continued. You go to Duluth, play against Brett Hall, and go out afterwards with the guys and have some fun with them. But it was just a great league to be a part of. But I'm excited about the Big Ten, what they're headed and the direction they're going, and the travel that they got planned. It's a great league.
Jimmy, is there anybody that sticks out in your mind your first year playing collegiate level that when you were on the ice, you knew that this guy was going to be in your ear no matter where you went? Whatever team it was, whatever player it was, he kind of chuckled. There might be somebody. So who's coming to mind right now?
There's a lot, honestly. There's a couple of kids on Wisconsin. I know that McGroarty, I played with McGroarty for 2 years, and he played for Michigan, so I knew that he is always kind of a chirper, so he would always be in my ear when we played Michigan. Just kind of I think mostly just the NTDP guys, because you're with them for 2 years, so you know exactly what rattles them because you do it in practice every day against them. So just kind of, I think mostly those guys, and there were some others who would get me pretty mad. It's some guys in Wisconsin, but other than that, it's just kind of a normal game.
Are you a chirper?
No, definitely not.
Not at all?
I don't really say much.
Okay. Let your play speak for yourself. Yeah. There you go.
All right.
So let's talk about your play. So freshman year, excellent. Phenomenal freshman year for you. So 50 points, 21 goals, 29 assists, number one most of the year, excruciating end in the national championship game and in overtime. And don't want to dwell on that, but can you take us through that year? Was it what you expected? What surprised you? Those types of things.
Yeah, I think I'd set goals for myself, and once we got Cools in to commit to Minnesota, I knew that we had a really good shot at it, and we had obviously some really good players on our team that helped me put up the numbers that I did. And just kind of playing with Cools and Izzy, it established a kind of like a stump on our team, that we can do this thing, we can win the national championship. And kind of just throughout the year, and we left for World Juniors too, and I was fortunate enough to play with Cools and Cutter Gauthier there, and we succeeded there. Obviously we didn't win, but I thought we played well throughout that tournament, and when we came back, it just kind of, we came even closer as a team, as a bond. And throughout that last kind of final stretch when we I think that's when Cools kind of even took off the most, where he was putting up numbers like crazy, and even against St. Cloud, I think that goal to make it 2-1 was kind of the breaker for him. But I think once it came down to the final game, we obviously had a 2-0 lead, and they got that one late, and we kind of stepped back in the third period, whereas we shouldn't have. And I think you can dwell on it, but most of our guys just learned from it, and all these guys are coming, most of them, not all of them, most of them are coming back next year, and we all learned from that a lot, and we're already set for and ready for this coming year with some really good incoming freshmen too.
So is it true you were a big influence in Logan Cooley coming to the University of Minnesota?
A little bit, I guess. Not a ton. I know he was talking with his advisors a lot about it, about how they develop guys to, go pro, and And I know Ches had a big impact. Ryan Chesley had a big impact on that one too. Just, I think it was either us or North Dakota, but I know that he wants to become a pro hockey player, and he obviously could have 2 months ago, but he decided to come back, and we're really fortunate enough for that.
Give us an idea of what your off-season workout is.
Yeah, so it's basically just 4 days a week. I'm skating with Jack Blatherwick right now. Jack's been with the game a long time. I'm sure a lot of hockey people know him, so I'll skate with him, 7 or 8 a.m. Monday, Wednesdays, and then come right here to Champions Hall. We have a gym in the back and do lower body, and then I'll do skill skates with JP LaFontaine, former player, Mankato, and then Nick Matson played at NTDP, and he's North Dakota. He played at North Dakota, so those two I really have skilled minds for the game, and then I'll do upper body here as well. So I think it's just kind of doing that stuff in the morning, and then mostly golf in the afternoon.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah.
So, Dave, you founded Breakaway Academy after being a teacher at Wayzata East Middle School for 15 years. And by the way, congratulations on your 10th year anniversary here at Breakaway Academy. So what motivated you to start this school?
It came down to culture in the classroom. In the public system, it's great. I loved it. I was in Wayzata for 20 years, but I had different cultured kids, all wonderful. I had the gamers, I had the choir kids, I had the athletes, I had the intelligent kids, I had the slow movers, which is great and everything. It was fantastic, the public system. But as a teacher, it really became hard to motivate the different cultured kids, where they all have the right to learn, they all have at their own pace. And I knew if I could just take a group of athletes, because that was my background, and give them the chance to be more active during the day, because these kids and it was hard to sit for the 6 hours during the day, and you only had 30 minutes of gym time. Or if I could take the athletes, get them active, motivate them. If you want to continue to be active, you got to be good in the classroom, and push the academics down their throat so they become smarter kids. That I want to develop this school, and that's exactly what Andy Brink and myself built it on. It's an athletic school that are motivated to do well in athletics, but we can motivate them to do well in the classroom too as well. And the way we do that is small class sizes. And if they're not making the grade, then they don't get to go train and do the things that they want to do. So the environment is fantastic. Thank you very much for the congratulatory, the 10 years here. It's been really a great experience. The kids have so much fun. Our return rate's like 95%. And the kids are fantastic. We have different ability kids, academically and athletically. We're not after a certain mold. We're just after kids that want to be active. And they're all finding progress and getting better and making the teams that they want to, on the rink. And then, our GPA, our graduates are doing so great. With high GPAs, we're seeing about 80% of our graduates are 3.5 or higher as they're in college or in high school. They're going all over the place. They're going to public schools. They're going to private schools. They're going to Shattuck. We're sending them off different places. And one of the most rewarding things is the time we take for character building. Jimmy mentioned a little bit earlier, about no phone use, about being in the present. We really work hard with our kids, that the character and the different goal settings that we have for our kids, the different character traits for perseverance, because we're all going to go through it. As I'm telling this story, the perseverance one, you asked Jimmy and feeling sad about, it's a bummer you didn't make you lost your last game of the year. Yeah, that was sad. But I unfortunately had that same experience in '89. We lost to Harvard at St. Paul Civic Center in the national championship. In overtime. But that was one of my greatest learning moments, to inspire me to get better, to become a better hockey player, to want to be a better teammate, to want to be able to win a national championship. I left. I didn't come back from that next year of college, but I look at the opportunity Jim and his teammates have in front of them. It's exciting. That's really exciting. But it's a character trait we go through. It's perseverance. The only way you guys get better is having your failures with your podcast and not going well, and you learn from it. But we're a school that does something about it. If you're having a setback, you don't make a team, well, darn it, I feel bad for you, but you gotta do something about it now.
Right.
Yeah.
And with our small classes, we do that with each and every one of our kids. So it's just a blast at work here. We have the same staff here for the 10 years. We've only grown. The culture of the kids, the culture of the teachers, it's just a fun place to be, a fun place to learn. So it's been great.
Nice.
Jimmy, Dave.
Oh, man.
Wow.
That was fun.
Thank you both. This has been an absolute terrific interview. Jimmy, we wish you the best. Dave, continued success with this academy. It's fun just to be in this atmosphere. And Mogi and I were enjoying the countdown that the kids had for lunchtime.
I think my ears are still ringing from the buzzer going off, JC.
Folks, please remember to say hi to our sponsors when you drop in on them. Do us a favor, give us a rating on your favorite platform because it helps us keep in the game. Again, Jimmy, Dave, thanks very much.
Guys, thank you very much. And I got to compliment you earlier. You guys are well prepared. This has been great to experience and be on your podcast. And we hope you guys continue success as you move forward, and let us know how we can help out in any ways, dropping more names your way.
Very much appreciate
Thank you guys very much for having us.
All right, a big thank you to our guests, Dave and Jimmy Snuggerud, and as well our audience. Please remember our sponsors, State Farm Insurance, Hertel Law, Raleigh's Coach Club, Riverside Bike and Skate, and Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. Follow us on your favorite social media platforms as well as YouTube. And remember, folks, until next time, stay on your inside edges.